Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Canterbury, I'm a pretty simple guy. I like breakfast food, and I like straight answers, and you're being evasive. Now, you've been nominated to run ATF. I think every member of this panel, both my Democratic friends and my Republican friends, who have feelings about the Second Amendment are entitled to know both morally and legally what you believe. You're not nominated for a judgeship. You're nominated to run an agency as part of the administrative state. Now, I want you to look me in the eye and tell me what restrictions do you support on my right under the Second Amendment to own a handgun?
Senator, I believe that every American has the right to.
What restrictions do you support?
Sir, I don't personally support any more restrictions that are currently in the law.
So you're telling me that you're not going to support changing anything about current law as a head of ATF?
What I'm telling you, Senator, as an ATF director, we will enforce the laws that are passed by Congress.
Are you going to try to change the law administratively?
I don't believe as the head of a law enforcement agency, it's my responsibility to change or make law, Senator.
Are you telling me you're not going to change the current law with respect to the Second Amendment in any form or fashion administratively?
Senator, I'm not familiar with the process of administrative changes.
If you're not familiar with the process running ATF and the
administrative process,
then you're not qualified.
I don't know the administrative process, Senator. I do know the legal process.
How are you going to run ATF?
Senator, I will have a full staff of experts. I am familiar with administrative procedures, sir. I'm just not. I don't know how they do their regulatory process.
All right, let me ask you one more time, and then I'm going to move on. But if you don't answer my question, I'm not going to vote for you.
Yes, sir, Senator.
Okay. What restrictions do you support to my right under the Second Amendment to own a handgun? Forget your former employment. Forget the law. I'm asking you personally.
Senator, I don't support any further gun restrictions, personally.
And as ATF head, are you going to try to attempt to change current law administratively?
No, sir, I'm not.
Okay. See, that was easy.
Yes.
Professor, I'm assuming that when you worked for Justice Kavanaugh, then Judge Kavanaugh, and Justice Kennedy, that when interpreting a statute, you started with the plain meaning.
Senator, I did, but I think that an approach to statutory text also considers structure, history, context, precedents, and even analogous statutes.
Okay. Well, if the statute is clear to you within the four corners of the statute, do you need to look any further?
Senator, you begin with the text, but of course, I don't think that it's appropriate to just pick out a phrase from a statute.
I'm not asking you that, Professor. What I'm saying is you've got a statute passed by the United States Congress, and you read it, and its meaning is clear to you. Your job is to say what the law is, not what the law ought to be. Are you going to go any further?
Senator, there are times when you would go further. Can I give you an example? If there were a binding precedent from the Sixth Circuit or the U.S. Supreme Court, then as a district court judge, I would be bound by that precedent.
How about if the statute was ambiguous?
Senator, once the statutory text is ambiguous, then as a district court judge, if I were lucky enough to be confirmed, I would use all information available, all the tools of statutory interpretation, the canons, precedents, structure, and a whole host of tools that I think a thoughtful judge brings to that analysis.
When you resort to these additional tools, how ambiguous does the statute have to be? Does it have to be like 51% ambiguous? or does it have to be 67% ambiguous? How ambiguous does it have to be?
Senator, I love that question. It's the kind of question that I know you were a law professor. It's the kind of question I ask my students in class. I'm hesitant to put a specific number on it, but I will say on a spectrum from, say, 60% to 90%, I'm probably closer to the 60%, again, assuming there's no binding precedent, assuming it's a question of first impression. I'm probably a little less quick to find ambiguity than maybe the most extreme end of the spectrum in terms of judges being quick to find ambiguity.
Let me ask you one more question. Private apartment building, privately owned. Tenant association drafts a newsletter that's critical of the ownership. Ownership says can't distribute it. Tenant association says violates my First Amendment right. Who wins under federal law?
Senator, the First Amendment's free speech clause as a general matter requires state action before it's triggered. I would be hesitant here to kind of shoot from the hip and say a lot more than that, but I have written about the state.
Start acting like Mr. Canterbury.
No, I understand, Senator. I tell my 5-year-old daughter who's here the same thing I tell my students. I like straight answers. I like candor. I want to be candid with you. As a general rule, my instinct there would be that the First Amendment restricts what the government can do. It tends not to restrict what a private actor
That's
can do.
fair. Let me ask you this. I suppose a federal district judge, which I can see happening, says nope, no state action. It's perfectly constitutional. Could a state find that it's unconstitutional?
Well, certainly, Senator, state constitutions can be interpreted differently than federal constitutions. State constitutions can provide more rights than the federal Constitution can. State constitutions can't take away rights. Judge Sutton has recently written a great book, 51 Imperfect Solutions.
You know the famous case we're talking about?
I'm not sure.
Pruneyard?
Okay, so this is the shopping mall case.
Yeah, yeah.
So I do remember Pruneyard from my 1L
That's
property
enough.
class.
Pass. I'm done.
Well, as fascinating this is, Senator Lake,